I'm not gonna lie to you guys. When I first started playing this game, I thought I was gay. You guys do not understand the chokehold that Rentaro Amami had on me the second this game got started. At first, you're introduced to the brand new cast and you think to yourself, wow, they're kind of basic. And then boom, they get this incredible glow up and all start looking like real Danganronpa characters, which is also really good foreshadowing for the last case in the game. But I digress. You meet the new cast and that's when you see my glorious man, my king, Rentaro. It was love at first sight. For a second, Rentaro was everything to me. Just look at him. He has that perfect e-boy aesthetic, but made 10 times more attractive. Look at the rings. The man really has that shit on. I spent every single second I could with him. I used every single free time event I had on this guy. I was so invested. There was a point where I literally changed my Discord profile picture to Rentaro Amami, and I hadn't even finished the first fucking chapter. I was ready to make fan edits. I was ready to die for him. I couldn't wait to see what they were gonna do with this character. Yeah, V3 fucking sucks, dude. The heartbreak was real. I couldn't believe that they killed my boyfriend in the first chapter. I was absolutely heartbroken. I was so furious, not just at this game, but at Kodaka himself. And it's with that same hurt that I have to tell you guys the unfortunate news. Danganronpa V3 Case 1 has the greatest twist in the entire series. Chapter 1 is such a brilliant twist on what makes the previous narratives of hope work. It tackles the toxic side of wanting to constantly push forward. The same symbol of hope that we saw in Makoto Naegi, the drive to never give up, no matter what, is given to Kaede. But what happens when the hope destroys the people around you? What happens when it destroys everyone's perception of you? People start to doubt and hate Kaede for who she becomes. And who is she? The symbol of hope. Someone just trying to motivate people. Someone trying to see the very best in everybody, exactly like Makoto. But the story constantly punishes her for it. And I think that's what works so well about having her as the protagonist here. Chapter 1 has probably one of the most controversial twists in all of Danganronpa, which is exactly why I love it.
Kaede is the culprit.
A lot of you guys have never read an unreliable narrator in your life, and I am so sorry for you. But this is the cream of the crop of writing. I'm sorry if you just wanted a basic mystery, but this is full of real chaos. When we got to the choose a culprit scene, I remember thinking to myself, who could it be? I think I got it 3 times before it finally clicked to me. Who could have set up the cameras? Who could have laid the books like that? Oh, I swear to you, go back and replay V3 Chapter 1. It suddenly becomes one of the most obvious cases of all time. You know exactly what she's doing. You see the exact wording. It becomes such a clever trial because you finally understand how it took them a year and a half to write this script. It is exceptional. The fact that people don't like this trial shows the lack of media literacy. They don't understand the sauce of the unreliable narrator. Kaede immediately becomes one of the most recognizable main characters of all time because of this twist alone. And it really makes you think, out of all these crazy fucks, our main character is the one to do the kill. It really makes you wonder, how much do we actually know Kaede? And I think that works exceptionally well for the first chapter of this game. There are so many series that fail to do this exact same trick. Look at Heavy Rain. Look at Until Dawn. Also, did you guys see the sequel for Until Dawn? I don't know if it's just me, but like it looks like really bad. It looks like a shitty Love Island. And somehow, Kodaka pulled it off. The swap to Shuichi is so good. Shuichi is such a great character because early on, you're constantly thinking he's going to be a psycho killer or someone who betrays you. Kaede sets up the theme of truth and lies. Should I pursue the truth with my emotions? Or should I lie to make the logic come out? Shuichi's entire arc is constantly challenged by this, and I just love it. He is a phenomenal main character, but he only works because Kaede is a stepping stone for him to move forward. And then the execution. It's so brutal. It's so much crazier than any execution in Danganronpa 2. I'm glad that Kodaka went back to writing the executions themselves because he clearly understands what makes an execution hurt. Kaede's execution is genuinely hard to watch. It is so messed up. It is so painful, but it gives you this intense feeling that Danganronpa is back and at a level that was not possible before. It's easily one of the best cases in the entire game. And because of that, for breaking my heart and tickling with my brain and setting up the rest of this game perfectly, Danganronpa V3 Case 1 is not just the best first case in the entire series, but it's also an absolute S tier. You know, I always find myself wondering, if Ryoma had a different character design, would he be as loved as other characters that are considered underrated? Because I genuinely feel like Ryoma is easily one of the greatest characters in all of Danganronpa. His entire existence is a contradiction. He's the ultimate tennis pro, but he's also this prisoner who went to jail for unaliving someone. There is so much passion in what made him truly amazing, but he's constantly living the consequences of someone who no longer has a purpose. He is living life without a motive to keep going. And because of that, Ryoma is the best victim out of any game. I really like the swap of the motive videos in this chapter. It forces a tight focus on the friction between these specific characters. Kirumi is literally the de facto prime minister of Japan. Maki is the ultimate assassin, and that Ryoma has no reason to live for. It teaches everybody a little bit more about the others, but it also creates this intense sense of danger. You actually don't know when the murder is going to happen. There's so much going on in this chapter. There's this whole magic show, and then boom. To go back to Ryoma, what really gets to me is that he is someone constantly trying to find a reason to live. Despite being almost suicidal, he truly doesn't want to give up on life. So when Kirumi proposes her solution to him, it's heartbreaking. He finally finds his purpose in death. That is so tragic. Someone who deep down just wanted to live, and to think that he struggled in his last moments, it makes you realize that maybe he didn't actually want to die. At that very last second, his body instinctively reacted like, what am I doing? I want to live. It's so sad, bro. I love Ryoma so much. Okay, I forgot to talk about the trial itself. It's really good. It's solid. Another thing that really works about this case is Kaito. Kaito is this guy you can't fully tell if you're supposed to trust. At first, it kind of feels like they're setting him up to be the next culprit, but you quickly find out that he's not bad at all. He becomes the prime motivator for Shuichi. He's someone who truly believes in others, doing those late night workouts, and it's so inspirational. But you can also tell there's something slightly off about him. He's not all the way there. It creates this really good dichotomy, showing that despite holding Shuichi to such a high standard, Kaito isn't necessarily any better. He's just exceptional supporting people. Then you have Maki, and I love Maki so much. She's a brilliant element here because the trial forces you to put your logic aside. Maki is innocent. She had no reason to kill Ryoma, but you have to work outside your emotions because it is so much easier to blame the ultimate assassin for the murder of your loved classmate than it is to blame the prime minister of Japan. Kirumi Tojo is such a weird character. She starts off as this really sweet maid, and there isn't really that much going to her until the grand reveal. She's basically the ruler of Japan, and she needs to escape to save her country from these fake flashbacks they're getting. It makes sense that Monokuma uses such a grand prize to manipulate them. Kirumi's motive makes the rest of the cast feel incredibly guilty. She wants to go out there and save millions of people, which makes the students think, wow, maybe we should give up our lives. Maybe we did the wrong thing by voting her out. And that is exactly where Kaito steps up in a very important moment, telling everyone, no, giving up our lives is not the way we should live. I think the themes work really well here, but Kirumi's motive is kind of goofy. Like, it's so insane, I can't really take it seriously. And it also doesn't really make me feel that bad for her. When you look at the other chapter 2 cases in the past, they're full of heartbreak and this really personal emotion between the culprit and the reason why they're doing these things. Peko and Fuyuhiko's romance is heartbreaking. Taka and Mondo's bromance is something I'm still not over. Those two chapters deliver immense heartbreak. With Kirumi, the murder itself is absolutely fascinating. The rope and the whole magic trick is really cool. It makes so many different people suspicious, which is proof that this is a really good trial. The trial in itself is a great case, but where it lacks here is emotion. The raw emotion of the culprit just isn't fully there. Kirumi isn't as emotionally compelling as Peko or Mondo. She is smart though. She made a really good plan. And her execution, probably my favorite one in the whole series. It's absolutely insane. It serves the purpose of making all the characters feel absolutely hopeless perfectly. And it makes them think, why do we keep having to vote out genuinely good people? That's what's so hard about V3. None of these culprits are hateable yet. I'll talk about you in a second, okay? I have to say that this is probably the weakest case 2 out of all the games, but the mystery itself is incredibly fun, and Ryoma is one of the most tragic victims and one of my personal favorite characters in the entire series. Because of that, I'm giving V3 Chapter 2 a B tier. Hear me out, guys. Chapter 3 is not the worst thing ever, but it definitely is the most disappointing trial in the entire series. Before I even try to defend this trial, let me just go ahead and go through the main criticisms in this case. First things first, the second murder idea is really fascinating, and the fact that they don't do absolutely anything with it after the whole conversation being half of the trial is really underwhelming. Also, Korekiyo as the second culprit is a really cool idea. Dude, I adore Korekiyo. He's literally one of my favorite characters. Whatever people feel about Celeste, I feel about Korekiyo, and I think him killing Tenko really works, but the fact that he killed Anji makes Tenko's death make absolutely no sense. You can excuse it for his motive, but even that doesn't really make sense. His goal is to kill 100 girls for his incestuous sister, right? So he kills Tenko and Anji, which I don't know how good of a friend Anji would be, but whatever. My question more so becomes, if you say you don't care about being caught, then why stop at Tenko? Why not sneak up on Himiko in the middle of the trial and try to kill her too? And again, I love Korekiyo. I think the concept of him being a canvas for his sister's abuse is an amazing idea. He isn't an actual person, he's just an image image of everything that his sister wants him to be. I feel like few stories address trauma from such an interesting angle. A victim that loves their abuser so deeply they embody everything they wanted him to be. But god damn does Danganronpa suck at handling abuse. It's a series that never takes itself seriously. And don't get me wrong, I love it. But I feel like when it comes to abuse, especially the way it's handled in Ultra Despair Girls, seriously, don't play that game. And here, it needs to be taken with at least some more severity than it's actually handled. And I think if he would have been left alive as a second murderer, it would have made such an intense tension of what was gonna happen. How are we gonna deal with this? A killer among us. But at the same time, how would the story ever deal with a character like Horikyo? I literally cannot figure out how they would have implemented him without choosing someone like Himiko to be the killer. But that wouldn't make sense. So what? Have Tenko be the killer? So no execution? A trial with no execution is like going out and not getting deserted. It's just wrong. Also, this is the best investigation in the whole series. We start with what's probably one of the coolest body discoveries ever, like, and then you see Anji in the middle, and this alone should be reason for celebration. I'm sorry, but I hate Anji. I don't understand why people like her so much. She's not as good as an antagonist as people make her out to be. I understand the cult. I really do. I love Lord of the Flies, okay guys? Everyone's read that book, and Anji is such a lackluster depiction of that. She is probably one of the weakest ones because she's not really convincing or interesting in any way. It almost feels plain ignorant how Kodaka depicts the creation of this cult, or how people in cults behave. You can use this as an opportunity for them to cope and believe that their loved ones are in a better place or something like that, but they don't do anything with it at all, except for Tenko. I really like Tenko, and I just love what they have. The whole degenerate male bit might be annoying to some people, but I don't care, man. Whatever. Let her hate men. Let her have it. She's fun. She's cheerful. She's this perfect, high-energy character. It also creates this really good sense of earned trust when she eventually goes to a male character like Shuichi to ask for help. It genuinely means something and shows how much she actually cares about Himiko. And go ahead and cancel me. I really like Himiko too. Himiko is kind of boring in the first half, but she evolves. Tenko's motivation towards Himiko is genuinely so beautiful. For me, as someone whose brother has autism, I see firsthand how Himiko is a perfect representation of just that. Someone who truly struggles to show their care or love for another person, but still deeply feel that love. A lot of people might look at Himiko and think she just doesn't care about Tenko. And people that believe that, you've probably never had an experience with somebody with autism or somebody that deeply struggles to share connections and create bonds. For some people, letting the other person know, hey, I appreciate you, can be really difficult. Himiko goes through so much in the story, and she becomes someone that I genuinely root for. She's such a fun character, and I love her. Her implementation of lies with magic is really well. In her hearts of hearts, she knows that her magic is not real, but she still uses it and loves it. So in a way, it turns itself into a white lie that works really well with the themes of truth and lies in V3. So yeah, I understand why Tenko had to die to push Himiko's development, but that's what makes the investigation so insane. You are playing around with this idea of whether the ritual will actually work or not. And for the people saying, of course it's not gonna work, I don't want to hear it. It's Danganronpa. Ultra Despair Girl has a fucking ghost. It could have worked, and that's why the Necronomicon is a really good motive. You're always playing with this tension of, okay, maybe it's gonna happen, maybe it's not. And that lies perfectly into the lie of magic and mysticism. It plays so well into the theme of truth and lies, which is my favorite theme in probably any game ever. When you go back to V3, it only gets better and better because of how well they implemented those ideas into every single one of these characters. So there you go, your chapter 3 double murder, as usual. And as you're leaving the room, you see one of the craziest moments in all of Danganronpa.
It's a lie!
I absolutely hate Kokichi, but I also kind of love him. But yeah, this trial kind of drags. But one last thing I want to say, the use of emotion in this trial is really good. There's a constant balance between logic and emotions in V3, and this is the one chapter where you have to rely heavily on emotion. Every single logical point proves that Himiko killed Anji, but you have to rely on the emotional belief that it just doesn't make sense for her to kill Anji. This is a feel-good moment for all the characters in V3 where emotion overtakes logic. But yes, it becomes probably one of the most annoying reveals ever. The fact that the most obvious answer is actually the answer makes it incredibly frustrating, especially given how solid everything else in V3 is. I can't say I fully hate it, I'm just disappointed. See it here. I definitely think that by the chapter 4 mark of any Danganronpa game, the narrative becomes so much more interesting and complex when it comes to not just the trial, but its overall lore. And I think chapter 4 of Danganronpa V3 is no exception at all. From a narrative standpoint, this is where Kaido's illness is definitely catching up to him, reaching a moment where it's really dangerous. But also, the bonds between the characters have grown so much deeper. Everything from an emotional standpoint in chapter 3 is being carried over into this chapter. You have Kaido, Maki, and Shuichi training together, trying to become the best versions of themselves. Kaido is constantly pushing them forward, even while he's physically struggling to walk walk with them. You can see his internal struggle so well in this chapter. I also feel like this chapter does a lot of interesting stuff with Miu, who's our victim. Miu is desperate to escape. She is such a talented genius and so fucking funny.
How about you just keep your fucking mouth shut, you lying little abortion?
I love her so much. She's literally one of my favorite characters in all of Danganronpa. Her drive to escape because she knows how important her talent is, especially if the world is coming to an end, is amazing. The motive here is honestly very nothing. It is what it is, and I think it plays into the mystery that you don't really know what the outside world actually looks like. It's just a despair-inducing motive. Looking back, it's not that special. But at the moment it's revealed, it's definitely shocking because it makes everything feel so hopeless. But creating the virtual world program to kill the absolute worst person in the entire chapter that is still alive, Kokichi, is really well done. I think it puts Kokichi in a really important situation that a lot of people forget. Kokichi is a very complicated, morally gray character. He isn't just outright evil, but at this point in the story, he's presenting himself through such an evil and twisted lens, you cannot help but hate him. I think that certainly adds to the fact that a lot of people just ignore that Miu was very much so trying to kill Kokichi. There is an aspect of self-defense here that I understand from Kokichi's standpoint. Until you get my boy Gonta killed. The culprit in this chapter is my sweet little teddy bear, Gonta Gokugahara. Gonta is so sweet. I love his free time events. He's such a ray of sunshine. And Kokichi's relationship with him is something really hard to stomach as he's constantly manipulating Gonta. And somehow, in his own twisted way, he still cares about Gonta? It's crazy, I know. And that's what's really good about this case. Gonta is so kind-hearted. It's incredibly hard to read who the culprit actually is. When you look at the cast, you think to yourself the only probable culprit is Kokichi. Going through the investigation, you assume the culprit is him, especially because he's constantly leading you onto other people. Here is probably the strongest part of the entire case. The fact that in the previous chapters, emotions overpowered everything. The power of emotions is what led you to the truth. Here, it's the exact opposite. Emotions only derail from the tragic and horrible truth. Kokichi's speech about lies, about how this killing him is just bullying and cornering the culprit until they panic and confess. It's so good. It's so tragic. It makes me hate Kokichi. He is such a fucking asshole. I love it.
Well then, the culprit is Gonta.
He is absolutely insane, and his voice actor blows it out of the park.
I'm sick of hearing you say you don't know. God, why are you so dumb?
This is probably one of the best voice acting performances in the entire series. I also like the virtual world program. I think the funhouse from DR2 is a lot more effective because we live in the funhouse for so long, whereas here, we kind of just joined the virtual world and then immediately after, the murder happens. It makes it hard for us to settle in, but I do think the twist of the virtual world logic is really clever, and it's a very creative way to set up a unique murder scene. But really, the crux of this case is not its mystery of the map, it's the dynamic between Kokichi and Gonta. It's how Kokichi manipulated Gonta, and the horrifying fact that Gonta does not know that he killed Miu. You're constantly having to struggle with the fact that Kaido is fiercely defending Gonta because he believes Gonta could not be capable of doing such a thing, while at the same time, Shuichi knows that all the clues lead to Gonta being the culprit. I hate to sound like a broken record, but it is so heartbreaking. The emotion that this trial brings out from Kokichi, confessing to everybody that Gonta is the culprit, is insane because it's almost hard to believe him after such a liar that he is. Because when this happens, you generally cannot tell if he's telling the truth, and that's what works so well about it. The emotion of this trial is what makes this 3.5-hour trial just fly by. It's absolutely insane. And dude, I don't know if it's just me, but Gonta's execution is probably the most disgusting one out of all the executions in the entire game. And the little cowboy thing, right at the bottom of the ocean. This trial is so emotionally heavy. You could have Kokichi screaming out Monokuma to let him get executed instead of Gonta, since he is the one behind the murder itself. It makes you wonder, does he actually mean it? Does he actually care about Gonta? Is this his change of heart?
I don't want to, stupid head.
I actually hate him. I want him shot 30 times in an alleyway. I hate this fucking rat. I don't think I've ever loved and hated a character so much in my entire fucking life. A lot of people find Kokichi annoying, and rightfully so, but that's also what works about him. Him and Nagito are so unbearable, but they make this game so much more entertaining. In this case, it's just a catalyst for Kokichi. Wait till we talk about chapter 5. But for now, V3 chapter 4 is an absolute S tier. That's how you make a trial. Where do you even start with V3 Case 5? I remember the absolute heartbreak I felt when they opened the gate and the little animation plays and you see Kaido's coat. I remember thinking to myself, oh god, no, not him, not Kaido. I really love Kaido. About 2 years ago, my father passed away.
I know you trauma dump on us like that, damn.
He was a production designer and he was my lead example of why you should follow your dreams. And so, I did. I pursued desperately my passion for filmmaking. I made 2 short films that I'm incredibly proud of to this day. Ones that brought so much attention to me like nothing I've ever experienced before. But before I could build from that entire momentum I had been building myself for the better part of a year suddenly just crashed. I didn't know how to pick myself up. I proceeded to spend an unholy amount of hours playing Marvel Rivals, a game which I only just recently deleted. And I'm serious, if you still have this virus in your computer, for the sake of productivity, I cannot recommend you enough to delete it. For an entire summer, I was a bum. I didn't do anything with my life. I played video games and burned through my savings. I figured that this was the direct result of my brain actually processing that my father had passed away. And man, I hated myself. I hated who I became. I hated that I was amounting to nothing in my life. And I just kept digging a hole for myself deeper and deeper until like one of my friends reached out to me and he was like, "Hey man, how's your script coming along?" And I was like, "Oh, I actually haven't been writing at all because I'm like in a writer's block." And he asked me such a simple question that still sticks with me to this day. What's a writer's block? And when I was trying to explain to him what a writer's block was, it made me realize something. This is bullshit. This desperate want for validation in the art that I create. It's bullshit. And so he motivated me. We started working out. I lost like 40 pounds. I started buying new clothes as well. And even though we're not as close anymore, I owe him so much for taking me out of that hole. For those moments that he truly motivated me. I see myself in Shuichi so much because of that. Wanting to love yourself, but constantly doubting your self-worth. But in other friendships, I feel like Kaido, constantly pushing other people forward to confront their inner selves, but avoiding my own flaws and insecurity. If you ever come up to me with your issues, I'll give you the best advice that you could ever ask for. But then if you ask me, "Hey, do you apply that advice to yourself?" I would just lie. Kokichi is a character that to this day, I can't put my finger on. I can't tell if I despise him or if I love him. What's so fascinating about Kokichi is that whatever you see as the truth and what you see as a lie completely shapes your perception of him. Is he this maniacal, Junko-like psychopath? Or is he someone that forces himself to be the villain to put himself in a position that can jeopardize the mastermind? I believe in the latter, lying about the mastermind and creating an unsolvable murder that forces Monokuma to try and figure out who the culprit actually is. This entire trial is a manifestation of Kokichi's insane plan to end this killing game that is only jeopardized because our main character is simply that smart. Yet this trial still has so much mystery that we'll never know. We'll never know if the press was actually what killed Kokichi. I mean, sure, we deduce it's the hydraulic press, but even before they started recording the video, Kokichi was saying that he's running out of breath. Again, this is before they even recorded Kaido's side. It's very possible that before the hydraulic press crushed him, Maki's poison had already killed him. So did Kaido just lie to protect Makiro?
Don't you worry, Makiro. I'm not gonna die that easily. Just leave it to me. I'll put an end to this killing game.
Kaito and Maki are probably my favorite pairing in the entire series because of the way Kaido inspires Maki, even if he's slowly letting himself go. When Kaido's at the verge of death, he takes a wound for Kokichi, not for the lying prick, but for Maki and her growth. In The Sopranos, Tony is going to therapy to become a somewhat more level-headed person, but it never works because he cheats, he kills, and is still very much so involved in the mafia. The world he's in constantly prohibits him to grow. You see him become somehow an even worse person than he was at the beginning of the show. And Kaido knew that if Maki killed Kokichi at that moment, the same thing would happen to Maki. All her growth in fighting her enemy and finding a way to live for others would fizzle away. Kaido was able to keep that hope in her heart alive. I love these two so much. They're just so precious and the ending is it's beautiful, bro. Maki confessing that never in her life did she think she was gonna share so many peaceful moments. Never in her life did she see herself ever having people she could call her friends. Never did she think she was ever going to fall for somebody the way she fell for Kaido. Yes, Kaido is pushy. Yes, he's hypocritical. Yes, he's kinda dumb. But if there's one thing about Kaido that is absolutely true, is that he wants to see the best version of you. Maki is a character that absolutely shocked me this time around because I don't remember loving her as much as I did this time around. She's the crux of the development in the latter half of the story, and seeing her slowly warm up to Kaido and Shuichi is absolutely heartwarming. This trial genuinely means so much to me. It applies itself to the themes of V3 so well, and it's without a doubt the second best case in all of Danganronpa.
Junko, Enoshima is right the fuck here!
V3K6 is the greatest trial in all of Danganronpa. Writing an ending is arguably the hardest part of a story. Even harder, a series. The Boys was a show that recently ended that not a lot of people were happy with the conclusion. Audiences were expecting an absolute massacre from the Homelander with the Boys triumphantly beating him. But for me, what this climax absolutely lacked was how safe it felt. It felt like everything was tied in such a sweet knot. Butcher dies in one of the most anticlimactic ways possible. They beat the bad guy, and sure, not everything is solved, but everything is fine enough that the boys can go back to their happily normal life. It was just so corny, especially that scene with Frenchie and Himiko. It made me think to myself, what's the point of all this? What's the point to engage with fiction like this? So many times have I been moved by a story, but why is it that this story that I've been following for the latter half of a decade does nothing for me? Because it's safe. And if there's one thing that V3K6 is not, it's safe. In any way. To start off the chapter, we have Kibo going Neon Genesis Evangelion mode, blowing up the entire school, letting you investigate every locked room, every nook and cranny that had been closed. You go into the mastermind's room, and not only do you see Mami Kuma, you find a hidden door that connects to the girls' bathroom, and you also find a shot put ball with pink fiber. This moment recontextualizes everything. You discover that Kaede, what is probably the craziest twist in the entire series, was not even the culprit. That the mastermind, even after forcing everyone to kill each other, didn't actually succeed, but had to force their own hand to even start this killing game. So who was it? Who could possibly be the mastermind that was behind everything? Oh, Tsumugi's a weird character because she almost has to be as boring as she is. Tsumugi is someone devoid of an actual personality. Her only sense of worth is the media she consumes. In a time where we all practically live in echo chambers designed to feed us as much media to keep us scrolling, Tsumugi is the endgame. With the use of AI, we're seeing people slowly walking into a world where we're actively losing our autonomy of self. One time I was with a group of friends and we were trying to figure out whether we should get Panda Express or Chipotle, and this one guy actually asked ChatGPT which one should we get. I will say my Chipotle bowl was hefty and really good, but the fact that AI had to choose for him what we ended up getting, it showed me the ultimate goal of franchises like The Boys, Marvel, Star Wars, that just will continue to feed us as much garbage as they can come up with. Mandalorian and Grogu came out the other day, and despite this not being the worst movie ever, I loathed it. I never groaned so much watching a film. But why? Baby Grogu is so cute! Because it has nothing to say, nothing about its characters, nothing about its world. This story is meaningless. Jeremy Allen White has to be one of the worst voice actors of all time. Pedro Pascal was never in that set. No one cares to say anything. They keep us busy. They make sure we don't think. How many spin-offs of The Voice will we get? How many seasons of Love Island am I gonna find myself watching? There are 53 seasons of Danganronpa?
Danganronpa!
Wait, what? If I told you that your entire life was a simulation and I showed you absolute proof, how would you feel? The amount of dread and despair would be so overwhelming, it might kill you. That all the laughs and tears you have gone through is for the sake of entertainment of people watching at the other side. The Truman Show, what is probably the biggest inspiration for the ending of V3, begs this question. As Truman realizes that his entire world, his parents, his wife, are all characters, that this entire world is a facade for the rest of the world, he realizes that his entire being is fictional. Now imagine if instead of the suburban life of the Truman Show, you are forced to see your friends be brutally executed and forced to murder each other. And then they told you that all that pain, all that suffering that you and your friends have gone through, it's all a lie. Maki falling in love with Kaido, Tenko's care for Himiko, Kaede pushing Shuichi to be more confident. All of that is fictional. The reason why V3 has the V is because this is the 53rd season of an in-world show called Danganronpa. Tsumugi flashes as the different characters we have come to know and love. It hits us even harder. All the hours we've invested into the series, it's all pointless. A show that has absolutely lost its every sense of integrity and has to cheat to create the most favorable scenario. Always bringing up one or two new gimmicks to keep things interesting enough for people to keep watching. And for this one, the theme is despair. A despair so bad for our main character that we feel it, that the audience feels it. So many people find it beyond upsetting, and I can't blame them. All the time that we invested into this series, not even in its own world is it real. This ending ruins everything. If it's all a lie, everything is pointless. But what a lot of people fail to do is doubt Tsumugi. What makes you think that in the game of truth and lies, the mastermind, someone who unjustifiably killed someone that was innocent of murder, wouldn't lie? Tsumugi is a fucking liar. Welcome to my sub-segment when I'm somehow going to make this video even longer than it already is. Tsumugi claims she created every single narrative in V3, created Maki falling in love with Kaido, and even created the personalities of every single one of V3's characters, and they were part of the killing game by choice. The first part I want to pick apart is the choice part. Tsumugi shows videos in which Shuichi, Kaede, and Kaito all introduce themselves as an unknown name, and then volunteering for the killing game. But this doesn't add up with the very start of the story. Both Shuichi and Kaede remember being kidnapped in the prologue, before getting their first foster memory. They don't remember being kidnapped after getting their first memory. Shuichi, Kaede, and Rantaro all introduce themselves as Shuichi, Kaede, and Rantaro before getting their first memory, even though Tsumugi blurs out their names in the audition tapes. Why would you have to blur out the names if they were going to use the exact same name? Also, if Danganronpa was this huge TV show that everyone watched, why did no one recognize Rantaro? Tsumugi shows this fake flashback of them being selected, but that literally never happened. Also, in the prologue, Miyu's still cursing. These characters still feel like themselves. And going back to the audition tapes, the floor is the same as one of the stages in Tsumugi's lab. Also, keep a looks like perfectly normal here. There's no way he's hiding that big ass ahoge in that little hat. Kibo might have been a human turned into a cyborg, but what about the hydraulic press safety function? That was never tested on anyone else besides Kibo. Tsumugi claims that everything went exactly as she wrote, but how could she write a case that Monokuma literally could not solve? Why would her hand be forced in the very first chapter if she wrote it all? And after Shuichi and the rest of the cast give up their lives to end this killing game, Tsumugi calls herself a cosplay cat criminal. You know, like a copycat criminal? So maybe everything Tsumugi's saying here is a lie, but some things don't add up. Why is Tsumugi able to cosplay all these characters down to a T? If it's all a lie, where's the original Hope Seek Academy? Where's Makoto? The remnants? In the last shot, you see a globe that says Team Danganronpa. Who is watching this? Why has this been going on for 53 seasons? Maybe Tsumugi's telling the truth. Maybe it's all fictional. But so what?
Even if this is fiction, even if we're all fictional,
The pain in my heart is real. The sadness I feel when I lose the people I love is real. I won't forget this game that treats us like toys. And if this is what the world wants, then I reject that world. I'll fight the world that inflicts suffering for entertainment.
When you write a character, he or she has her own heart in the story. Multiple authors talk about this. The creator of Villain Saga says that the characters naturally make their own decisions because to them, everything that's going on is real. Characters like Thorfinn, Truman, or Kokichi, these characters are not generated by a machine. No, ChatGPT could never write Nagito Komaeda. These characters are real. They are an expression of something deep within the writer's soul. When they laugh, when they're upset, when they cry, when they die, we feel that. We feel that pain because that pain is real. And whether Tsumugi is telling the truth or not, it doesn't matter because Kaido, Shuichi, and Maki working out together, relearning to love themselves, it changes them. And most importantly, it changes you. To say that Danganronpa has changed the lives of many would be an understatement. I was in such a turmoil before making this video. This pressure to create, eyes constantly looking at you. I wanted to be someone so bad, I forgot the purpose to create. To make characters with struggles, fears, ambitions, and doubts. To give your soul a new form. To make a story that's real.
I know I've let you down. I've been a fool to myself. I thought that I could live for no one else. But now, through all the hurt and pain, it's time for me to respect the ones you love mean more than anything. So with sadness in my heart, feel the best thing I could do is end it all and leave forever. What's done is done, it feels so bad. What once was happy now is sad. I'll never love again, my world is ending. I wish that I could turn back time, 'cause now the guilt is all mine. Can't live without the trust from those you love. I know we can't forget the past. You can't forget love and pride. Because of that, it's killing me inside. It all returns to nothing. It all comes tumbling down, tumbling down, tumbling down. It all returns to nothing. I just keep letting me down, letting me down, letting me down. In my heart of hearts, I know that I could never love again. I've lost everything, everything that matters to me matters in this world.
S+ tier.
That I could turn back time, 'cause now the guilt is all mine. can't live without the trust from those you love. I know we can't forget the past.